This is Jim.
And this is Mike, and you're listening to Greg on the Barbecue Central Show, the place for all things important to the world of barbecue.
When you're ready for even more guy stuff, check out the Mind of Men podcast for news and views on politics, tech, sports, tools, home repair, cigars, drinks, barbecue, and more.
You can find us on iTunes or at mindofmen.com.
From my heart and from my hand, why don't people understand my intention?
Happy to have you aboard here for the Really Big Barbecue Show.
We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Fine, how's it going?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan. So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle.
Charbono! It's all about the Charbono, dude!
Succulent fish. What?
He ate 54 wieners.
But listen, Lavernius, shake a face.
I'm shaking like a dog shitting peach seeds.
You could use it to fight off creeping marauders looking to take your steaks off your grills.
I just like being anywhere with Junior, Senior, and Diva.
Sounds like a whole other type of movie.
Wow. Yeah, really. Keep it hot, keep it clean, keep it lubricated.
We have top men working on it right now. Who? Top men.
That's right. We have top men right now. Top men. By the way, welcome to the second hour of the show, affectionately known as the After Dark segment. So lock up your neighbors, little girls, 7-year-old Vietnamese boys. Never mind. And a lock and load because we have Dr. Barbecue Ray Lampe coming up here sooner than later. Damn computer. This is what you were going to see. That'll be fixed for next week. Harry Carey told me that his the glasses that he used to have, something happened with those glasses that he wore last week. They were outrageous. Got to find those damn glasses. Otherwise, who knows what could be happening. All right, we're going to be joined, as I said, by Dr. Barbecue. Well, look at here. Hold on a second. Looky here. It's Dr. Barbecue. Currently, the only guest that still has his very own theme song. It's Ray Lampe joining me here on the Barbecue Central radio show. Ray, long time no talk. Happy New Year's to you. How are you, buddy?
Oh, I've missed you, Greg. I'm good. How are you?
Tell me how much you missed me. Go ahead and tell everybody.
Well, not really that much.
God damn it.
Trying to be nice.
Ray, you got me all excited, and then you let me down. All right. So I'm sure there's many different things that we could get into here tonight, Ray. And I thought, it was one of the best interviews that I've done here on the live show was when we chatted it up last time. We really didn't have necessarily any things to hit per se. And we just were kind of vibing off of each other and seeing what was happening in the world of barbecue aside from some things that you have going on. So, before we get into that, I know you posted on Facebook that you were going to be on the show tonight and 20 different things showed up on the response page. And I'd like to get to some of those for sure, get some of your thoughts on things that are happening in the world of barbecue, obviously competition as well. But before that, kind of bring us up to speed. What have you been up to? And rumor has it that maybe Ray Lampe is not that single guy anymore.
Well, I am still single, but I am engaged.
Oh, well, congratulations to Ray Lampe. How does that happen, Ray?
Well, thank you. You meet a nice girl and you hang around with her for a couple of years, and I guess it's time to get engaged.
That's right. That's the way.
It's the first time in my life. I sort of been a single guy most of my life, my whole life, and I figured it was time. Maybe I'd finally grown up and matured enough to have a reasonable relationship, and we'll see how I do. So far, so good.
There you go. Other than that, obviously, and again, congratulations on that. By the way, Smoke and Die Barbecue, Clint Cantwell wants to know when he might be able to actually cater that. Any possibility that Clint Cantwell might be able to cater the wedding?
Well, anything's possible. But I got to tell you, we really don't have any plans to get married anytime soon. You know, when you're grown up, we're not going to be having kids. We're not going to be starting a family or doing any of that kind of stuff. So we're really not planning on getting married anytime soon. We kind of forgot that everybody was going to ask about that, though. So, yeah, Clint, you're on the list, but it's going to be a while, buddy. I wouldn't, you better keep your day job waiting on that job.
Yeah, well, now that you've mentioned it here on the Barbecue Central radio show, it's probably only a matter of time before the TMZ cameras start showing up and, set up camp around the Ray Lampe compound.
Well, no, I'm not. It's not like I'm Myron Mixon famous or anything. I won't be going on TMZ.
All right. Well, nevertheless. All right. So all that side out of the way, it's like I said, it's been a little while since we've gotten together. Kind of bring us up to speed. What's happening with Ray Lampe? What do you got your hands in? What's the same? What's different? What's good?
Well, everything's good around here. I am, me and Big Green Egg are still good friends, and that keeps me pretty busy. We always got something going there. It's all it's kind of interesting how my job with them has evolved over the years. I spent a lot of time in the early days dealing with the dealers and a lot of the consumers and stuff, and now I spend a whole lot more time doing corporate stuff and working with the marketing people. I guess that means we did our job pretty well, but I stay pretty busy with those guys. And then out of the blue, publishing has not gone that well the last few years. Everybody involved knows that, and so I was sort of looking for what was the better solution. What's the new thing? And we did the fire cooker thing for a while. Unfortunately, that didn't work out that well, and I was sort of looking for what's going to replace publishing. And out of the blue, I got a call that these guys wanted me to write a new cookbook, and I was pretty happy about that. It just doesn't happen much these days. So I've been working on that for the last couple months, and the timing was perfect as well because it's a wintertime thing. This time of year, you got a little free time on your hands. If you're a barbecue man, you're pretty busy in June to be writing a cookbook. So that was a pleasant surprise. I've been working on that, and heck, now it starts all over again. The season's on. Going down to cook at the contest in Naples this weekend, and in a couple weeks we got the contest in Lakeland, and there's an Egg Fest in Arizona I'm going to go to in February. So it's amazing how Barbecue Man stays busy all year anymore.
So with the new book, you've written a number of books already, all been very successful. What kind of a spin are you taking, or at least what kind of a book is evolving as you're writing it?
Well, they had a specific idea that they wanted me to tackle, and that's where the deal came from. I probably can't really talk too much about the specifics, but it's going to be a little bit more for the home cook. One of the things that they said, every barbecue book that's written nowadays is the hero book. They referred to them as, I am the god of all barbecue, and this is where I eat and how I do it, and you should too. And I've certainly written a couple of those books, but boy, there's a whole lot of them on the shelf at this point. And I don't mean that wrong. I'm kidding about that, but we're all pretty accomplished barbecue guys that have written a lot of these books. But frankly, they all start looking the same. And these guys said, well, why don't we simplify it a little bit and write something a little bit more aimed at the home cook. And I thought that was a pretty good idea. So that's what I'm working on. And luckily, this is my 6th book, and I don't know that I'd have been capable of it. My 2nd book, all I knew how to write was my life story and some barbecue recipes. And I think by this point, I've kind of got it together, and I think I can actually write a cookbook sort of aimed at what they described to me. I guess we'll find out. It won't be out for like a year, but that's just the nature of how it goes. But in this day and age of publishing, I'm lucky to have any kind of book deal. I'm very happy about it.
I asked you this question, and I was just thinking about this when I was on the way back home from work today, thinking about what all the stuff we were going to be talking about. I think, if I'm not mistaken, we are actually entering, and I say we as in you and I, but we're probably entering in that 4th year of when you have either been doing just the podcast show, when we initially did that very, very, very first interview when the show was only just for like a record and on-demand type deal. And we have transitioned all the way over. Now February 7th will mark the 3rd year of this show live. And we have been talking about all of this stuff, and it's transpired over all this time. So we've known each other for 4 years. And I remember asking you this question probably the first or 2nd time that we ever talked, and it was this. You've done X amount of books already. One was your life story. Another one was something you're very used to, but on that 3rd book, and now here on your 6th book, how does it feel to you to be able to write these books? Is it something now that because you have had so much experience writing on different topics and now somebody's actually giving you a topic to write on, do you have all of this experience behind you to know that you're just going to be able to put a book together and it's not going to be that big of a deal? And also, where does the personal satisfaction or the books that Ray Lampe has written, which ones do you like best?
Well, the confidence level, the first one was easy because that was just my life story. I'd been stashing recipes and stories for a lot of years, like so many of us do. The second and third one was a little trickier because I didn't really know how to do that well. The road trip book was kind of easy because we had a specific idea and it was something I knew how to do. But yeah, I think now I have the confidence that I can write it the way they want. Luckily the subject remains the same. Cooking ribs is cooking ribs, so you got to come up with a new idea for a sauce and a rub. But I do know the process very well, and it's almost sad, but it's the first one is like an epic event in your life. It's your book. It's like having a child. Now it's really kind of a job. I take it seriously, and I'm very proud of it. It's a pretty cool job, and you look back and think, wow, this will be my sixth book. You think this is actually a sort of a library, what do they call it? A backlist of books that I've done, and it's really, it's kind of a big accomplishment. You don't when you're in the middle of it, you don't think about it quite that way, but I think I've succeeded as an author. Writing a book is one thing. Writing six is something that I'm real proud of. Of course, this is not Escoffier either. I'm writing rib recipes and dick jokes, so it's not. You can't put the dick jokes in the new book for the home cook. That was the awakening of the NFL book. It was like, because if you go back to, I think it was in the first book, I wrote a recipe about turkey. It was a turkey breast recipe. So I'm writing this recipe, and I'm writing about, you put some oil on the turkey breast and you massage it a little bit, rub it in, put the rub on under the skin and rub it in, massage the breast. And so I'm sort of getting a kick out of this and entertaining myself about massaging the breasts and that the breast is getting aroused by the flavors. And then I really hit me that I said, switch this recipe to 2 turkey breasts. So that the whole recipe reads about massaging the breasts and enlightening the breasts, and the breasts get aroused by the flavor and everything. And I put that in, and they left it in. And I think the NFL book, when I got to that, I realized that I couldn't be putting in jokes like that. Or there's a recipe in one of my books called "Hide the Sausage," and smoke the bologna. Like I said, this isn't a Escoffier, but you still got to write them. But now I've gotten pretty good at it. The NFL book was kind of a big difference. And as far as which ones I'm the most proud of, well, it really is kind of like kids. You do like them all, but being able to write the NFL book is a pretty cool thing. It's got the NFL shield on the front cover of the book. That's a pretty cool thing to have on your resume. I really like that. But you still get a rush sometimes. This year, the ribs, chops, steaks, and wing came out last year at Williams-Sonoma only for a year. And that wasn't that big of a deal. We didn't really promote it much. And this year, I walked in Crate and Barrel and how they have their fancy grilling section, and there was my book, like the book on their shelf. And it really made me feel good. It's kind of, you get jaded with it. But then you walk into Crate and Barrel, and there's your book as the barbecue book for the season, and it's pretty humbling. I feel pretty good about it.
Dr. Barbecue, Ray Lampe joining me. Barbecue is his thing, and his website, by the way, drbbq.com. If you're a Twitter person, at drbbq, and Ray lights it up every once in a while. Also on Facebook, you can find him. So, Ray, one of the other things I wanted to ask you about, last year you were on that Tailgate Warrior show. Is that something that it's continued on this year? And if so, how's it going for you? And has the show changed, or has it kind of stayed the same? How do you like it?
Yeah, that's been a real treat for me. Guy has reached out to me and told him, hey, we need to get Ray on this show, and it's been a real boost for my career. We do all this dicking around barbecue and guy stuff, but all of a sudden you're on a tailgating show, on a real primetime Food Network show with Guy. That's a big play, and I really appreciate him helping me out with that. Last year we did one. It was sort of a test run. We did the one with Chicago. And the biggest difference is they gave them 2 hours to cook the first year, and this year they only gave them 1 hour. And I'll tell you, it's amazing how ambitious these guys' menus were and how well they did. So we shot 3 new ones this year, and so we had a total of 4 that they ran. But then we shot a finale maybe a month ago in San Francisco, and it hasn't aired yet. I believe they're going to all air Jan 29th, like the Saturday before not Super Bowl weekend, but the weekend before. And I believe they're going to air them all again and then end up with the finale. And it should be pretty good. I mean, that was exciting for me. That's the real thing, you know. You do a lot of this little TV, which is, don't get me wrong, I say little TV, it's still really a cool thing to do. But all of a sudden you go to that level and it's a whole different ball game. It's pretty cool when you're judging, you know, with Eddie George and Susie Fogelson and Tom Pazika. I mean, it's pretty cool stuff. I sometimes I look in the mirror and think, wow, how did I get here? You know, did they really let me in the door? I'm very proud of that stuff.
Is Aaron Andrews on that show too?
No, Aaron Andrews is not. Michelle Beadle is going to be on the finale.
Right. Yeah, Michelle Beadle. Dude, she's so hot, right?
Yeah, hell
yes, she's hot.
Yes, she is. And she was as nice as could be. She was a real treat. Everybody was. I mean, it was pretty cool because we had a lot of downtime. So when I would, in between judging, we would sit. They had a coach for the judges, a motorhome, and so I'd be sitting in there with Eddie George and who judged with Miley Carpenter from the Food Network magazine, and the one time it was Daryl Johnson, Moose Johnson, and Susie Fogelson. I mean, it's pretty cool. You know, I have a great Eddie George story. We were sitting in a conference room. We needed to finish up these interviews, and it started raining. So me and Eddie George and a cameraman and a sound guy had to go in this conference room. And we're sitting around waiting, and Eddie's got his smartphone, and all of a sudden he's hooting and hollering and laughing. And I don't know the guy that well, you know, so I didn't say anything. And finally he goes, "Come here, you got to look at this." Well, it's a video of Eddie George's son. He's 5 years old playing pee-wee football, and he gets the football and he runs by all the other kids and runs in the end zone. And Eddie George just thinks this is the coolest thing. He's like, "Can you believe that?" And I'm thinking, well, yeah, I can believe it. It's Eddie George's son. What did you think he was going to do? It's been a lot of fun hanging out with them people. I mean, you get into their world and they're very normal. I mean, Eddie George couldn't have been a nicer guy. But so I got to enjoy his son scoring his first touchdown with him.
Yeah, and Ray Lampe joining us here on the show. And Ray, I got to say, you know, I'm a big fan. Well, you know, I mean, look, I'm not going to sit here and kiss your ass, but everybody knows I'm a big fan of you. I appreciate, you know, where you've come from and how you've started this whole barbecue thing. You're the original barbecue guy. You've, you know, won a lot of competitions. You know a lot of everybody. You've done a lot of this business that, quite frankly, a lot of us would like to do. A lot of us would like to be the barbecue guy full time. So, you know, when I see you on these shows, it's like I almost know you personally, as well as a lot of these guys. I mean, you're very accessible. You're very down to earth. A lot of people love the fact that when I have you on the show, they are, if they haven't heard you before, they appreciate the way you're coming off and how genuine you are. So when I see you on television, and I think you're almost even better than you were last season on the show. So I just wanted to kind of give you some props for, you know, how well you're doing with that chance. Do you see it parlaying into, you know, anything more kind of just Ray, potentially?
Well, that's certainly the goal. You know, you work your way up the ladder. It's kind of every level you get to, you think, wow, writing a book would be the coolest thing in the world. And as soon as that first one gets written, you want to write another one. And you know, so you get on like being on The Best Thing I Ever Ate. That was really cool. Well, as soon as you do that, that was my first big appearance on the Food Network. Well, hell, as soon as I do that, I want to do some more, you know? And so, yeah, of course, that's my goal. It's not like the beauty of this whole thing is, and what you said is very nice. I appreciate it, Greg. But this is who I am. You know, there's no act involved. Some people may not like it, but I can't help it. This is who I am. This is who I always was. And I get to just be myself. And that's what's pretty cool. And people don't understand. Guy has changed everything by showing up there and being as talented as he is and lighting it all up. All of a sudden, they look to more interesting characters like myself. You know, you don't have to all just fit that same mold anymore. Guy sort of kicked the door down for us all with that. And And so I'm certainly in the market for a show of my own. And yes, I've talked to some people very seriously over the last few months. I think that being on Tailgate Warriors has been a great opportunity, and I thank you. I think I've done pretty good. You know, the more of it you do, it's like anything else. The more of it you do, the better you get at it. You start to learn, and we're really lucky on that show that it's the two diners, drive-ins, and dives crews sort of come together to do that show. And they are just the best people in the world. They all hang out together a lot. They like each other. They're nice people, and they help you. You know, a guy like me comes in. I'm by far the greenest guy on the set that's actually doing anything, but they're all nice as could be, and they're very helpful, and it's helped a lot. And it makes you comfortable, you know, and guy as well. It makes it real comfortable for me. And again, all I have to do is be myself. You know, I know they don't tell me what to do. I know what to do. When the food comes in front of me, you got to get excited about something, good, bad, indifferent, whatever. They don't tell me whether I should like it or not. But I know darn well they're not going to keep me on TV if I just say, well, that was all right. You know, I got to get excited about it, and I don't mind that. I like to eat. I like seeing cool stuff. The teams were amazing. The stuff they brought to the plate. Wait till you see the stuff in the finale. It's pretty impressive what they did, and of course I'm also lucky enough to get to eat it, you know. But through all of this, I just really get to be myself, and it's a compliment to hear you say that. But I don't know how else to act. It is, you know, I am who I am, and luckily enough, there's become a market for it. I am an old school barbecue guy. I cooked my first barbecue contest in 1982. I cooked my first KCBS contest in 91. I mean, that's like the beginning of time, and I never thought that any of this would. We always dreamed of the $100,000 contest, but you know, it wasn't. We didn't know if it would really happen. We always think of, well, we're going to be NASCAR someday, but I don't know that anybody was really quitting their job to try it and do it. But all of a sudden, it's starting to happen, and it's so cool to be. I'm lucky enough to have done all this background work. I wasn't trying to create this legacy of myself. I was just out there having fun. But now all of a sudden it's marketable, and I happen to be one of the guys that is lucky enough to be in the front of it. Got the silly beard, that certainly helps, and all the experience. And luckily enough, when they turn the camera on, I can still talk. I don't get scared, and I feel very, very lucky to be one of the guys that's gotten out of the pack. You know, there's a lot of good guys out there. I'm very proud and humbled. But I'll tell you this. You said I know everybody out there. Well, you know, a couple of years ago I did. But I'm losing touch with it. I haven't been out cooking enough the last couple of years, and it really bothers me. I want to get out and cook more, and I'm really planning on it this year. But one of the reasons is it's changed. It's not about winning that $100,000. It's about what the attention that's being drawn to the events. If they have a $150,000 contest in Las Vegas, it's going to be a big deal, and sponsors are going to be interested. When you work for Big Green Egg and you work for people like this, well, that's where you need to go, and I need to get a little bit more into that. I haven't cooked enough over the last couple of years, and I really want to get back at it. I sort of miss it.
Wow, so many things that I can actually react to on that. I got to figure out exactly which way I want to go.
That was about a 20-minute answer, wasn't it?
You know, kidding, Ray, shut up a little bit so I can jump in here. This is my show, goddammit. All right, let me back up a little bit. You mentioned Guy Fieri, and what a great guy he is. No pun intended. But you see him, you know, obviously he was the next Food Network star. He won that. He got his own show. He's Guy's Big Bite, and then he transitioned over to Channel 3, NBC, to do Minute to Win It, which has been a hit. And this guy seems to be, whatever he touches right now is gold. So I have to imagine, in your shoes, anything that you can do to be associated with him is like awesome. Is he?
Yeah, well, there's no doubt about that.
I mean, is he as genuine a guy that we see on TV? Like, if we were somehow able to conference call him in right now, is the guy that I see on the television screen, regardless of network that he's on now, and he's on 50, would I have a similar conversation with him as I would see him on the television? Is he that same guy?
Yeah, he is. Guy is the story I just say about myself, getting to be myself. That's what I see with Guy. I don't know him that well. I've known him for a few years, and I do spend a little bit of time with him. But what I see is the same guy, just happens to be doing the right things, and people like him for who he is. he's pretty normal. Pretty normal. You know, I mean, it's amazing what has happened, and you got to figure you're doing something right if you get to where he's gotten so quickly. But you can you can have a normal conversation with him. He's pretty grounded. He's a very good guy.
So, I mean, is Guy somebody that can actually cook? Has he gotten away? Like you said, you've kind of gotten away from the competition side of things. Has Guy gotten away from the kitchen where you think he might not be able to have his culinary skills up to par as he once had?
I couldn't really answer that. I don't know for sure. If I was guessing, he sure talks awful passionately about food still in private conversation. So if I was guessing, he's still cooking a lot. Time changes all of our abilities to get places and do things, but my guess is he can still make you a heck of a dinner.
Ray Lampe joining us here. Dr. Barbecue, by the way, his website, drbbq.com, and on Twitter, @drbbq. Ray, one of the things that you just said here before we actually start getting into addressing some of the Facebook questions and whatnot is the fact that you had gotten away from the competition side. You're going to be doing some competitions here upcoming, Naples, Lakeland, just to name a few, as you had mentioned in the Open. I mean, what's it like for somebody that has been in it as long as you have, when you get away from it and now you're going to go back into it, and it has exploded over the last 3, 4, 5 years. You have a good handful of teams, and I hate to just pigeonhole KCBS as somebody that I'm going to reference because, FBA has a lot of great teams in it. Obviously, the Memphis Barbecue Network has a lot of great teams in it as well. But we're going to use KCBS just for point of reference because it is the biggest right now. You see all the teams that are doing so well. For you to get back into it and go down, I mean, where's your mindset? Are you just looking to have a consistent cook? Are you going in with that feeling that, hey, man, I know what I'm doing, I've done it a long time, and I know I can win this bad boy? Where's the mindset for you going into the competitions this year?
Well, I want to ramp it up. The last few years has just been going out there and cooking and sort of seeing and being seen. And frankly, I still enjoy it. I love going to the cook-off. But it's hard. The guys are so good now. I'll say it. The stuff they're doing is way harder than what we were doing when I was real active. The boxes, I used to make my boxes one at a time. As the food was getting ready, I would put some lettuce in the box, put my meat in, put a little parsley. Now it's a 3-hour ordeal the night before to get your boxes ready. And that's just one thing. The effort that these guys are putting into it's amazing. I mean, the trimming of the chicken, and it's unbelievable. They're working way harder than we ever did. And they're putting out some amazing stuff. It's a little intimidating, frankly. As much as I don't know that I really want to work that hard, I got to be honest. I like to just go cook some barbecue and hang around and have a few drinks. And boy, you can't anymore. And frankly, I get pulled a lot when I do show up to cook-off. I'm happy to do it, but a lot of people want to talk to me, so it's kind of hard. You get pulled away from what you need to be doing. I hope to get it more together this year and try to become a little bit more of a threat. Hey, I'm a competitor. I don't like to go to a contest and not be prepared to try and win. Last few years has been pretty tough for me just because I'm not prepared. Hell, I think last year I cooked Lakeland and the American Royal. That's a tough spread. How do you stay sharp in between that? And of course, the American Royal is it is what it is, and Lakeland is my hometown cook-off here. I'm doing as much entertaining as I am cooking, so it's been tough, but I understand it. It's hard to be good at it. Again, these guys are so good at it. I don't think I ever cooked more than 18 or maybe 20 cook-offs in a year. And there's so many guys doing that now. There's probably a couple hundred guys cooking 20 contests a year, and they're just so good at it. It's tough to be good. I think that guys get frustrated they don't win when they think they turned in something really good. But my God, man, there's 20 guys there turning in perfect chicken. Somehow it's got to sort itself out, and not everybody can win. So yeah, it's going to be a challenge to be good at it again, but I'm going to see what I can do.
All right, so let's go ahead and start taking some questions here. We have a number floating in from our video side. Ray, are you familiar with the fact that you can see me on video now?
No.
Good. Don't even bother going to it. There's a thing called Vocal, and I'm not even going to give you the website, but we have some people that are actually, I mean, we're huge right now on Vocal. We're also very big on just the regular radio side at this point in time, so I certainly appreciate you hanging with me here tonight. So let's go ahead and take a question. This is from Paul Huff, and he wants to know, Ray used to make his own Dr. Barbecue rub, but it is no longer available. Can he tell us what is in it? Is there a recipe book that has the Dr. Barbecue rub, Ray?
No. Oh, God, that was a private label deal. That was a way back in the beginning, a private label thing. It's common in the industry. You put your label on someone else's product. When you go to these big food companies, they have 100 products there, and you can pick one and put your label on it. And that's what I originally did with that product. The bad part about that is you don't have the recipe, and you never will. There's guys that claim they can match it. I tried to get that to happen a few times. I mean, that goes way back to the early 90s. I did not create that. It was a private label thing. It is still available, but it's only available in 10-pound boxes because that's the only way I can get it, and I'm not repacking it. And Hog Eyes has it. I think it's hogeye'sbbq.com. In 10-pound boxes, and get together with a couple of your buddies and split one. I actually use it. I'll use some of it this weekend. It's good, but I can't get it in and I don't have the recipe, and it's just not on my high priority list. I apologize for that, but it's not. I'd give you the recipe. I'd put it in a cookbook if I had it, but I don't have it.
All right, next question is from Don G. Wants to know if there's any barbecue books geared towards new competitors. More about how they prepare for the event versus anything else. Any books that you have seen or that you would recommend for people that are getting into competition?
Yeah, what's that book George Hensler did? I don't know the title of it offhand.
Starting the Fire.
Starting the Fire. Yeah, I mean that's what if you're just trying to get started, that's what I'd do. I'd get that book. You're going to quickly want to learn a lot more as you go, but it's a great place to start and then jump in. Just go to the cook-off and start mingling with guys. One of the problems now, when I was doing a lot of this, we didn't share that much with each other. We all, of course, back then a lot of guys were making their own rub or they were making their own sauce. Now these guys all share with each other, which is nice, I guess. And of course, all the classes. I did a few of them classes myself back in the day when I was a threat. And,
so I've heard.
It's a good thing, but it sort of levels the playing field. It's really everybody knows what each other are doing. It's not much of a surprise. Frankly, I'll tell the guy, here you go. Here's the secret. Get some Smoking Guns Hot and some Blues Hog, and it's a pretty good place to start. There's a whole lot of guys making money using those two things. So it's George's book, and then just get out there and start cooking and make some friends, and you'll be surprised. You'll go out and hang out at the cook-off, be a nice guy, help a guy move something, and you'll be surprised how fast you'll make friends and you'll be learning.
Ray Lampe, Dr. Barbecue, joining us here. All right, so we're going to turn to the Facebook page, Ray, here, and we're going to take ones that seem to be fairly relevant. And
don't be skipping any now, Greg. I don't want nobody mad at me.
Well, some people, I'm the host, and if people are being stupid, I'm certainly going to point that out to them. I might still ask it, but I'll let them know. First question up 7 hours ago was from Barbecue Barbecue, and he wanted me to ask you about the Kansas City Barbecue Society Board of Directors. Ray, obviously, you've actually been on the Board of Directors a little while ago. You've heard last year it seemed to be like a civil unrest with a vocal minority, let's call it, there's old blood in the BOD. We want to get the old blood out. We want to get new blood in. We want to make changes. I don't know if that necessarily happened or not with last year's elections, but we have new elections coming up this year. There's certainly a number of new nominees going in. Obviously, just had one on earlier in the first hour, Jim Stansel. So as you view it, somebody who's had intimate knowledge of the KCBS pretty much from its very beginnings, where does it sit right now? What do you think of the board of directors, and we'll kind of build from there?
Oh, God, it's sad. I hate to see it like it is. I mean, there's some of them people are friends of mine. There's some good people there, but man, they're just in a fucking mud hole with each other at this point, and I just hate seeing it like it is. My advice to everybody, the good news is there's only 2 incumbents running this time, and I happen to think that we got 5 seats available this time. I happen to think just don't vote for them same two. And nothing personal against them, but if we could turn over 5 seats this time and 4 next time, I think it'll go a long way, because I'm disappointed in all of them, the mess they've made, the fighting. This is a great time in the world of barbecue. KCBS should be shining, and instead it's an embarrassment almost. I hate to see it, but I think not only the bitching and all the embarrassment, there's work to be done. These $100,000 contests are not going to stop coming. We had one last year, first time, a huge event for that to happen. Well, we're going to have probably 2 this year, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's more, and the next year there's going to be more. This is not going to slow down. I believe we might finally be getting over the top, and they need to be prepared. We need to have the rules in place. We need to have the scoring program in place. There's a lot of work that needs to be done to be prepared for what's coming down the pipe, and I think they're too busy fighting and stuff and not getting it done. So I'm all for get rid of the old ones and just get some new people in there. It's a shame because there's a lot of good people around there, but boy, they need to run the thing properly, and it's just not being done that way. I used to say that, the lady in the back office her goal was to get the meeting over with so she could go back to running it her way for the next 29 days. And I'm afraid that's still the case.
All right, Ray, so let's take that kind of piece by piece. If we're looking at things that need to change, if we're looking at $100,000 of competition purses coming in, perhaps more than that, or at least multiple times during the course of a competition year, do you think at this point, and we all know that Gary and Carolyn probably never in their wildest dreams thought that the KCBS would grow into what it is today. It's not for profit. Should we look at KCBS dropping the not-for-profit and going into private business and just kind of making I'm a businessman. There's no bad word called profit as far as I'm concerned. So should we look at KCBS potentially becoming privately held and just dropping this nonsense?
I don't know how that can actually happen, but I don't think it would be a bad idea. My honest opinion is it probably was a mistake. Now, it's easy to look in hindsight because who knew it was going to be what it is now.
Sure.
But it probably was a mistake to make it a not-for-profit, and I think so. I think if it was privately held, you wouldn't have to include all these board members that basically get elected as a popularity contest, and then you throw them in the boardroom and they're trying to run the thing, and they aren't necessarily our most qualified business people. They're nice people and all, but we don't, like a lot of not-for-profits and corporations will use their best people. Well, we don't have one. We got to have, out of 14,000 members, there's got to be some lawyers and accountants and business leaders that would be willing to serve on our board, and that's not what we have. And they're not embraced. The scoring program has been a problem for a long time, and there's got to be some programmers out of these 14,000 people that would help us out. And now they're reaching out a little bit, but it doesn't seem to be the love that I've seen that I'd like to see. I think we should embrace some of these other members that are good. But, I don't know how it could transition to be private, but I think it would probably be a whole lot better off. You look at NASCAR, the reason NASCAR is what it is because the France family was so strong and willing to make strong decisions, even if everybody didn't like them. And I think that's what I'd like to see with KCBS, instead of the attitude that we don't want to step on anybody's toes, we don't want to make anybody mad. So maybe private would be best. But how does that happen? Does somebody have to buy it? You can't just have it. Nobody owns it right now. You can't just give it to Carolyn. It doesn't work that way. So I don't know how that could happen. I guess it would have to be someone would have to purchase it, and then who is it? If it's somebody that makes the right decisions, great. If not, it's a problem. Boy, that's a tough one.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you think that if you're looking at tracking membership and you're seeing how it grows every year, there had to have been a jumping off point where people in the KCBS realized that this is something that is even growing bigger than we actually thought. Any thoughts on why there wasn't some type of adjustment made as they see the continuance of membership growing, the popularity of barbecue growing, purses growing, that adjustments weren't made then in order to kind of safeguard what's happening now?
Well, I mean, why? Who knows? I sure wish it would have happened. That's the problem. I think you just said it right there, is that we didn't plan. We possibly should have seen some of this coming. We possibly should do strategic planning, but I've never seen anything come out of there that was, here's our long-term plan. And most businesses would do that. You adjust it, but you kind of have a plan, and you have things that when you do get an influx of money like they have now, maybe you had some ideas already on the table that can fund, and it's just never been like that. I don't know. You turn over the board, and again, it's always been sort of a popularity contest. I sure didn't get elected to that board because of my business qualifications. I have them, but that's not why I got elected. I got elected because everybody knew me from being a cook, and unfortunately, that's what the board has always been. So I don't think it's anybody's fault. They just don't have the chops to actually run something like that. And Carolyn, God bless her, she got it to a certain point, but it looks to me like a lot of small family businesses where it reaches a certain point and the people in control just really don't know how to take it to the next level, but they're in control, and that's kind of where we are. But in spite of all of that, the barbecue thing continues to grow. Through the recession, barbecue flourishes. Barbecue cook-off world flourishes. So it's rolling on its own. It's we're sort of hanging on instead of driving it, and I hope it continues to work out as well as it has.
Do you think there's a point, though, where driving itself becomes something that isn't as prevalent and something needs to be changed?
You there?
Ray?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I can hear you. I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
I was saying, as you see to your point, I mean, it's been kind of driving itself. Is there a danger point where something isn't changed within the infrastructure of KCBS itself, and the popularity of the sport or the growth of KCBS starts to either reach a plateau or perhaps starts to taper off?
Well, no, I don't think it will. I think the growth is going to continue. Barbecue is hot. People are really into it. They want to learn about it. I mean, there's a guy with a radio show about barbecue. It's you. I mean, yep. Who would have thought that was possible? Guys like me are going into the mainstream media. I joked about Myron before, but look at what Myron has. Look at how he's been recognized as a barbecue guy. So I don't think it ain't gonna plateau, and it ain't gonna stop. I worry that either somebody else will step up and just create, I don't think scoring these things is brain surgery. I think it's someone that knows what they're doing could create a scoring program, probably something fairer. In respect to Gary and Carolyn and the guy whoever originally created the scoring, it's amazing how it's endured. The 6 people, it's kind of like the 90 feet from the plate to the pitching mound. How did that work, or to first base, I should say? How did that work so well? It's kind of amazing how the 6 judges and the scoring program has endured, even though it hasn't really ever been changed and really hasn't been kept up to speed. It continues to work better than the Memphis program, and frankly, the FBA is really just a tweaked up version of KCBS. It's amazing how well it's worked. So I don't know. Maybe it can continue to hang on, but I worry that someone will step up and come up with a better mousetrap, or we'll have a problem. As we get into these big money contests, if somebody gets cheated or a problem occurs, you get screwed out of $50,000. What are you going to do? You gotta take some action, and we're getting to where that's the potential that could happen. When somebody gets screwed out of 500, well, okay, we pay them off the 500, and it goes away. But the kind of money that's coming down the pipe now, and we're also going to have sponsors. Like it or not, real sponsors are coming, because when we have these big events, we go to places. The guys out in California, that stagecoach contest, over 100,000 people come in 2 days. Well, sponsors like that. That's how you get a sponsor. Not by trying to win 10 grand. You go out there and somebody will give you 10 grand to sit there in front of them 100,000 people for the weekend. And that kind of stuff they're not going to like it either if things aren't in order. So, I don't know. I hope it can just hang on. I hope it continues to get better and they're ready for what's coming down the pipe. If not, I think that someone else will step up and KCBS may just become the minor leagues.
Ray Lampe joining us here on the show, weighing in on KCBS and the board of directors. Next question coming in from Tim Hoffman. Wanted to ask you about the KCBS Team of the Year. Obviously, we know that's QL Mike Wozniak. He won it. He was Team of the Year just a handful of years ago. I mean, really, as you look back over the annals of the last 5 or 6 years, I mean, Mike has been right up there, one of the most elite competitors out there, and has been for a while now. Your thoughts on the Team of the Year?
Well, on Mike, I think Mike is a great cook. He's also a guy who does his own thing. I don't think Mike does use Blues Hog and smoking guns hot. Mike is making his own sauces and making his own rubs, and he's innovating techniques for cooking things. We all know about the chicken, but I believe Mike is doing a lot more than just that. He's innovating stuff, and he's really out there working it. I think if you got in the kitchen with Mike Wozniak, you would find a hell of a talented cook and a hard-working guy, and, of course, Beth. And they work hard. They get out and hit it all over every week, but I think those guys are just that good. I have a lot of respect for them. And, of course, Mike will tell you the only cooking class he's ever taken was mine.
That's right. Absolutely. Well, evidently yours and Scotty Johnson's from CancerSuckChicago.com.
Well, they actually did that class together, so they were kind of shigging off of each other during the class. Is how that went.
Okay, well, I see. Everybody's stealing from everybody. Certainly no surprise in the barbecue world. Yeah, Mike, definitely a great cook. I mean, do you think because, and there's not a huge amount of teams. Obviously, you have 4,000-plus teams registered, KCBS, and there's a small handful that are doing 35, 40 competitions a year. I mean, for the teams that are doing that amount, do you think they have that much of an advantage to be a potential Team of the Year candidate then?
Well, I mean, just by sheer numbers, they do. But also, I mean, I can't relate to cooking 40 contests a year, frankly. Like I said, the most I ever cooked was 20. But I can tell you the year I cooked 20, I was a lot sharper week in and week out than the year I cooked 10 or 12. So, my guess, although I don't know, what's the breaking point? What's the tipping point? If you cook 25, are the guys cooking 40 any sharper than you cooking 25? I'm thinking, you're both pretty sharp. So I'm thinking that they may not have that big of an advantage over the guys cooking 25 and 30. Over the guys cooking 10, yeah, absolutely they do, because you just get good at it. You just get in a routine of doing it exactly the same way every week. And then if you need to make a little tweak, it's easy to do because you're just so programmed for what you're doing every week in and week out. You just get to know, how you judge the feel of a brisket. Well, if you cook 2 every weekend, you're going to get better at that feel and really get consistent with what you're doing. And again, you can make a little tweak. So yeah, I God bless those guys, man. They cook a lot. But hey, if it's going to be Team of the Year, endurance should be part of it. You can't win a NASCAR Cup by driving half the races. You got to be out there driving every week, and that's how it goes. So I have all respect for those guys, and I think it's fair.
Dr. Barbecue, Ray Lampe, joining us here on the show After Dark. Next post from William Ames asking about injections. Now, Ray, I'm certainly very aware that probably when you started, people weren't necessarily injecting everything that ran across the big four, but certainly nowadays injection seems to be like standard operating process. What are your thoughts on injections? I mean, where does it come? Where is it going? Kind of break it down for us.
Well, I knew Bill's dad, Joe Ames, and Joe brought these products to us originally. Guys were cooking select and choice grade briskets back then, and we needed something to help out, and the phosphates was a cool thing. Joe brought them to us and showed us how to use them, and he was a good guy and really showed us how to make that happen. Well, now there are other products that are similar. I don't have time to test them all. I think they're all pretty similar, but I'll tell you that I've actually gotten away from injecting my briskets because what I've realized here is guys are all buying these crazy prime and Wagyu briskets, and I don't see a reason to inject those. So to me, it's kind of come full circle, but not because it's not because injection is bad. It's because when you're buying $100 brisket that's all marbled up and tender already, you kind of don't need it. I'm all for. I've been a big proponent of it. I mean, I was one of the guys teaching everybody how to do it when we first had Fab B, but I think we've gotten away from it now. I think a lot of guys are still doing it. I don't really know, but the caliber of meat that they're buying. When I called up the place, I called up Snake River Farms last week to order some of them high dollar briskets because I'd never had any before, and I'd been hearing people were using them. I figured I better try this, and I think a whole lot of people are buying those briskets.
Yeah,
they seem very in tune with what's going on in the barbecue world. So it was kind of an awakening to me that guys are buying these $100 briskets every week to cook in barbecue contests. So it kind of eliminates what the phosphates were originally for. Now, there's probably guys injecting them anyway. I really don't know. I guess if I get out there a little bit more, I'll learn. But I think it's a shame to inject a Wagyu prime, what they say that's above prime brisket. There's just a whole lot of fat and good flavor in there already. So I'm not going to inject mine this week. We'll see how I do.
I mean, I think it's funny, Ray, as we look back in, I believe it was 2007, you were a quarter of the panel that made up the brisket roundtable that we did here on the Barbecue Central podcast show. And it was like something that I just mentioned right off the cuff at the very beginning of the show. Jim Minion had a lot of experience with it, but you, Fast Eddie, Lee, and Whippen kind of all passed it off as something that, well, if I can get it, this or that, or I don't even want to bother with it. And all of a sudden, it's like fast forward a couple years, and it's like the most popular thing ever. Do you attribute perhaps some of that popularity to the Barbecue Pitmasters TV show and like all of this exposure that everybody was talking about with these Wagyu briskets?
Well, I'm sure that sort of had a big push for it, but I think it's along the same line of, like I was saying, how hard the guys work to making their boxes and seeking out prime meat is just another thing that you would do. The lengths guys go to get parsley and lettuce is just crazy. Buy a whole case of parsley, drive down to the market to get the primo parsley. So why wouldn't you also be looking for extraordinary meat? And that's what I think it became. And as everybody starts doing it, I mean, I remember that podcast, and I definitely felt that way then. But now, if everybody's cooking this prime stuff, now you have to sort of fall in line. It's a very, very advanced version of everybody starts cooking thighs. If you turn in wings, the judges are looking at your box like, what the heck is this? The taste and texture of these prime and Wagyu briskets is different. And if all of a sudden that's 5 out of the 6 are that and yours isn't, it's just the way it goes. It's really evolved to me. If I was just cooking dinner for us, I might still prefer that choice brisket or that certified Angus beef brisket. But if I'm going to compete and I know everybody else is using that stuff, I have to as well. So I think it's just a sign of the lengths guys will go to now to do well at barbecue cook-offs.
So when you look at some of the teams that are really doing well out there in the competition scene, and we're just talking about brisket here, obviously you have Butcher Barbecue, and obviously QOW jumps right off the top of my page. So they're two of the, I guess, top 5 teams that are out there in the competition world, very vehemently not cooking Wagyu brisket. So, I mean, there obviously has to be some type of transition where if a lot of people are using it, if you still know how to cook right, it probably isn't always what the meat is. It's how you cook it and how you're seasoning it and the flavor profiles.
Well, yeah, and if you go back to that roundtable, what we talked about was the collagen in a more tougher brisket that you start out with ends up tasting better at the end of the day. It's kind of like why a flank steak tastes so good, and why lamb shanks taste better than a leg of lamb, because that's the cut of meat. There's all that collagen in there, and that stuff makes it taste good. So I think that there's a real case to be made for that. But I stand by what I said about, if everybody else is turning in prime, you sort of got to get on the bandwagon. But, those guys are certainly doing it without. I think it's a pretty safe bet we know what David's doing down there at Butcher's Barbecue. Mike Ho, there's no telling what Mike is doing. I would never try to guess what he's up to. He's got something good going on. So, there are exceptions for sure. For me, trying to get a little bit more back into it now, though, when I see all these guys cooking them prime and Wagyu, I figure at the end of the cook-off, I spend so much money to be there anyway. What's a little more for a brisket? And frankly, what I found as I started getting my hands on some of these better briskets, it's kind of no reason to cook. In the old days, we'd always cook two because you'd get a weird one, or sometimes you'd get one with a big gash in it, or it just wouldn't cook right. When you're buying a $100 brisket, you kind of don't need two.
Ray Lampe joining us here on the show. Next question from Steve Rodriguez via the Vocal Video website. How do you feel about high temp cooks versus the low and slow, Ray?
I just don't know much about it. It really wasn't I don't know, fad is probably not the right word, but that's what I'll say. It wasn't something we were doing much. There was a few people doing it when I was cooking a lot, but not enough that anybody really was that worried about it. And frankly, for me, I'd rather put all my stuff on at night and sleep through the night instead of having to start at 4 a.m. So I'm not really interested in trying to do that. I look at them guys, they have to go to bed at 9 or try to get some sleep so they can get up at 4 and start cooking. Well, I'm sleeping at 4 because my guru is running my eggs, and I don't have to do anything, so I'm just snoozing away. So I'm not in the market to try and cook fast. So I've never really spent a whole lot of time trying to do it. Obviously, there's guys doing real well at it, Myron is certainly leading the pack. Guys don't understand. Well, I think they do a little bit more now, but there's a lot more going on with Myron than turning up the temperature of his cooker.
Right.
But he's certainly successful, as are a lot of guys. So there's nothing wrong with it. I really don't know much about it.
All right, next question. I apologize. We're bringing it all the way back to the very first part of the show. Danielle Bennett-Domofsky wants to know how you proposed to Sandy.
Well,
unbelievable.
I kind of rushed it. I came in her house and I kind of rushed it because I knew we had talked about it, and she knew she was going to get a ring, and it was about 10 days before Christmas, and so I figured, well, I'm just going to hurry up and whip it out and give it to her, the ring.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, you're talking about the ring, right?
So I didn't kneel down. There was no flowers involved. I pulled it out of my pocket and stuck it on her finger and told her I loved her. So it wasn't that dramatic.
Good enough, evidently, though.
Oh, she said yes, so that was good.
All right, well, there you go. That's how Ray Lampe became engaged. All right, next question from Ken Wood. Can barbecue become a spectator event? It seems to work on TV, but perhaps not so much live. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I meant to put a little thought into this one, and I didn't. I think it can. It's kind of interesting. I do a lot of cooking classes. Well, not so much anymore, but I did a lot over the years. And there's a lot of people that come. I got to sit in at a guy doing a big class in Atlanta at one of them food shows. And those people are not there to learn how to cook, and they're not there to eat. They're really just there kind of to see it and interact and to see and be seen and have been there. So I don't think it's out of the question. This is where the motorhomes and the enclosed trailers become a problem, though, because you don't have to feed the guy. You don't have to really tell him what you're doing, but he's got to see you moving around a little bit, and it'd be nice if he see a piece of meat once in a while if he's going to come and spectate. It's not really possible to spectate if you're just sitting in your motorhome with all your stuff in there. And I don't know what the answer is. I've had a trailer forever. I used to have a trailer with a cooker inside. It was plain white. You wouldn't even know I was at the cook-off. And it's probably wrong, but it was allowed and it's legal. But we certainly can't have a spectator sport if it's like that. I think that we're going to have to, at some point, compromise. When you see me at a cook-off, you'll see me outside. I saw Myron last year down here in Lakeland. right after Pitmasters, and he was doing exactly what I'd hope he'd be doing. He was out in front talking to the people, shaking hands with them. Now, he's always got a crew of guys that knows how to do things exactly like he wants, but the cooks need to participate a little bit, because that's when the sponsors are going to come. We can't have sponsors if people don't come. Guys are small-minded. They think that, well, you can't have a spectator sport. Well, you know what? Go stand by Johnny Trigg's motorhome and see how many people want to come up and talk to Johnny and shake his hand. They don't care about looking at his brisket. They'd like to see it. They'd like to have a piece of it. But that's not part of the equation. But they sure do line up to say hi to Johnny and get their picture made with him. So I tend to think that, yes, it can be. But guys are going to have to participate. And if they don't want to, I got a feeling that we may end up with two distinct series. Guys that are willing to get out there and work with the people. We kind of had it going on last year at Prilosec thing at the NASCAR tracks, but that fizzled. But I think we'll see it again. I think it's possible, yes. But it's going to have to take some participation from the cooks. And the guys that just want to stay in their motorhome and not be bothered, well, I got a feeling they're going to either end up in the back row or at different cook-offs, because there's going to be a certain amount of us representing sponsors that are willing to get out there and shake hands and meet the people and talk to them. And I think that's a good thing. So, yes, I think it can. Not quite how people think, though. All
right, next question from Brenda Swadder. Oh, Jesus Christ. Come on, Brenda. Give me a break. How the everyday cook to turn their items for the grill into extra something. I mean, what kind of tips can you give somebody? You're just grilling some of the stuff that you would normally do on the grill. How can you kind of spice it up a little bit?
Well, the way people screw up is they overcook stuff. Quit overcooking it, and your food will get a whole lot better. As far as secret stuff, put some salt on it. Don't be scared to put some salt on it, and don't overcook it. That's my attitude.
All right, so next question from Ed Falder. Talk about why you have to turn in meat salad at KCBS Comps. Obviously, he's talking about the garnish rule, which I obviously have been very vocal about. Look, Ray, I don't understand. Just between us guys. The KCBS has rules. And then in this gray area, it says garnish is optional. But let's be honest, between you and I, if we both decide to go cook a competition, you and me, and we decide as two separate teams, and we decide to not garnish our boxes, we've pretty much given up any hope that we're going to win that competition.
Well, there's stories about guys doing well.
That's bullshit.
No
we
comment.
both know it's bullshit.
I wouldn't do it. And frankly, it's going to be an exception instead of the norm if you turn your stuff in with no. I always have this attitude that the judges are going to look at that box and say, well, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. It's pretty good barbecue, but he's clearly a new guy or something. Same thing with like the chicken thighs. If you don't turn in, and now it's become that way with pork with this ridiculous money muscle thing. If you don't turn that in, the judges are I think there's a certain amount of judges that are probably looking at it as, wow, this must be a new guy or something, because why didn't he turn in money muscle? Why didn't he use garnish? Why didn't he turn in thighs? Pick your poison. At this point, I wish they'd get rid of it. I think it was okay back in the day. I'll go along with all the arguments about it keeps the meat from moving around and all that. But the FBA has proven that you can get by without garnish. And frankly, it's been there used to be a rule about marking and sculpting in KCBS. And I guess there's still a rule, but it doesn't get enforced much anymore. I judged at the Jack a couple years ago, and it was amazing the boxes that came in. Now, I realize that's not a sanctioned contest, but I'm pretty sure those boxes were getting turned in all year everywhere these guys went, and what they're doing with the garnish is unbelievable. I give them credit for it because it looks so good, but in the good old days with the reps that I knew, that stuff would all got DQ'd because it's pretty clearly sculpted, and if you cook 40 times a year, judges are going to figure out whose is whose. So I think that there's sculpting and marking going on, and eliminating the garnish would help with that as well. And frankly, it's just a hassle. I'm so glad to not have to deal with garnish this weekend in Naples. I hate to be like that because I like to support the traditions of KCBS, but I think the garnish might have run its course. There might be time to get rid of it.
I mean, but wouldn't you like to see it just taken onto that vague category of optional and either voted in as mandatory where everybody knows going into a competition they have to put it in, or voted out like an FBA where you don't have to worry about it?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think the optional thing is a joke. The stuff they say to us sometimes is like, how do they say that to us with a straight face? Okay, yeah, it's optional. I guess in theory it is, but I'm with you 100% on that. You're not gonna be a very good. You're not gonna be the team of the year not using garnish, and that's fine. I don't see any point in making it mandatory. But I would sort of, I mean, I can't argue with that. I'd rather see it probably just go away, or somehow let's the parsley to me has created a whole bunch of problems. It's funny. I look at this stuff, and someone asked me the other day about the brisket. How come you can slice your brisket and put it back in the cooker? And I said, well, I could tell you, and I would say that Gary Wells went to his grave never knowing that someone would slice their brisket, put it in a pan of juice, and throw it back in the cooker. Or maybe we would have a rule for that. But I don't think anybody could have fathomed that was going to happen. And probably the same thing with lettuce and parsley. Nobody ever fathomed that guys were going to take this parsley and make a pudding green out of it, spend hours and use a half a case of parsley to make something to lay your barbecue on. It was just something to lay. The lettuce was what we would lay in the bottom of the box, and the parsley was just to trim it up a little bit. Now, it's not illegal, but it's not what guys had in mind. And so, when things like this happen, you need to maybe tweak the rules a little bit, but we can't seem to ever get that to happen. So things just get they just continue to fester, and that's what I think the garnish thing is right now.
All right, Ray, we are rolling. I mean, you're well over an hour right now. I mean, you good to hang for some more questions or what?
Yeah, sure. I got to answer that one about Waldorf Egg Fest.
Yeah, we're going to do that here, but if I could, can we take a quick break here so I can pay some bills?
Yeah, sure, Greg. No problem.
All right, 3 minutes, and we'll be back with Ray Lampe. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show right here on the Barbecue Central Radio Networks.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Radio Show.
Barbecue fans travel from all over the country and the world to learn the secrets of real pit barbecue from Grand Champion Pitmaster Conrad Haskins. Now take your skills to the next level with a Barbecue Institute Pitmaster class. You'll learn how to make sauces, rubs, and smoke mouth-watering barbecue every time you cook. Your new skills will impress friends and family. Internet forums, blogs, and Facebook are full of success stories from our graduates. Upcoming classes locations include Rock City Rib Fest, Rochester, New York, Lexington, Massachusetts, Lang Factory Test Kitchen in Georgia, Fort Worth, Texas, Fredericksburg, Texas, Houston, Texas, Monroe, Washington, and Kennewick, Washington. For more information, class dates, and contests we'll be competing in, visit www.bbqclass.com. That's bbqclass.com. The future of barbecue is already here at thebarbecueguru.com. From the amazing guru that monitors and controls the temperatures of any charcoal, wood, or electric pit to the Caldera Tallboy knockdown smoker. Yes, it breaks down and stores flat, yet it's still a robust, sturdy, portable cooker and smokehouse. It also serves as an efficient temperature-controlled convection oven using wood or charcoal. The Tallboy is designed to fit all catering pans and can be used as a warming oven. You can cook in any style you choose. Make ribs, chicken, jerky, vegetables, smoked cheese, whatever you want. Take it to KCBS competitions and unload it from the trunk of your car. TheBarbecueGuru.com is where you'll find the Caldera 3-Bay Caterer. It's stainless steel and uses charcoal or sterno for chafing purposes. And it doubles as a 3-bay sink or wash station with hot water and knocks down in seconds with no tools required for transportation and storage. The future of barbecue is here at thebarbecueguru.com. That's www.thebbqguru.com or call 1-800-288-GURU.
Forget going from site to site to get all of your barbecue and grilling supplies and make your first and final stop at fredsmusicandbarbecue.com. In the market for a new barbecue pit, we have all the big name brands like Big Green Egg and more. As a matter of fact, Fred's is staffed by eggheads and carries all the parts and egg accessories for the Big Green Egg. More of a pellet head, you say? Fred's is the pellet grill superstore with grills in stock from Traeger, Green Mountain, and Country Smokers from Louisiana Grills. Fred's also carries smokers from Cook Shack, Bradley, and Weber, as well as a full line of charcoal grills. And once you're outfitted with your new smoker or grill, you'll find absolutely everything you need to make your barbecue or grilling experience a success. Fred is also the creator and distributor of Tasty Licks barbecue products, including their great line of rubs, spices, and sauces. You've got to try them. And you can also get your hands on a full lineup of marinades, accessories, lump charcoal, wood chips, pellets, chunks, and even the great grilling tools from Stephen Reichlin of Barbecue U fame. Check out Fred on the web at fredsmusicandbarbecue.com or check out their fully stocked showroom in beautiful Shillington, PA.
Introducing Cosmos Q. Cosmos Q injections and marinades use only the finest ingredients, and they mix easily, never clotting or caking. From our beef injection to our pork injection, you're guaranteed to wow your friends, family, and judges. And don't forget to check out our Cosmos Chicken Soak for that moist and tender chicken you're gonna love.
And don't forget about Cosmo's new pork soak and rubs.
You can find us at cosmosq.com and select retailers across the nation. For quality injections, marinades, and rubs, it's Cosmos Q.
Broadcasting live from the Barbecue Central Radio Network studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Radio Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Lampe.
Welcome back. 15 past the hour of 11, baby. It's like the late show of barbecue right here. We are joined by Ray Lampe, Dr. Barbecue. drbbq.com is his website. You can follow him on Twitter at drbbq, also on Facebook as well. Clint Cantwell just gave me the go-ahead that I can actually loosen the tie. It's after 5 o'clock. I worked until 8:30, chump. I'm all business all the time, and nobody knows that better than my guest tonight. That is Ray Lampe. We are covering it all tonight. This is an instant classic interview. Ray, appreciate you hanging with me through the break, and we go back through the Facebook questions here. Of course, we talked about the salad KCBS and garnish whatnot. We've talked about future of KCBS. Dale Kelly wanted to know about the Waldorf Egg Fest, May 14th, and evidently this is the original.
Yeah, it's Dale who hosts the Waldorf Egg Fest. We got to get a nice plug in for him, though. Dale's the Big Green Egg distributor up there in the middle of Maryland, and he was the first guy. Eggtoberfest is the original at Big Green Egg, the home one. But Dale was the first guy that said, hey, I'm having my own, and it's a rocking good time. Anybody who feels like going to an Egg Fest, if you're anywhere near Waldorf, it's right out there in the middle of Maryland, man, it's a good time. Dale will put on a party for you, I guarantee. I might be there. I'm not sure. I try to go every year. I get there about half the time. But you will have a good time with Dale. You just tell him you're a friend of mine and go hang with Dale. You better bring your partying shoes, though.
All right, so, I mean, as you look at these Egg Fest, Ray, I mean, it's certainly been something that has gained a lot of popularity over the years. And, I mean, I've interviewed Ed Fisher here on the show a couple times, the guy that's actually brought the Big Green Egg over, and he's gave us a lot of history on that particular cooker. But as you see more and more Egg Fests come about, I mean, what's your relation? Well, we know what your relationship is with Big Green Egg, but, I mean, what's your requirement to do these? Is it just something that fits in your schedule, or do they want you to go out and do a certain amount a year?
You know, they don't really dictate much to me. They kind of leave me a long leash. They know I'm out there doing it, so they let me kind of handle it myself. The guys with the Egg Fest, if they call me, I will try to come. You never know. It used to be a lot easier because I would be sort of out there making this big circuit, and I could just kind of steer myself towards them if it was possible. These days, I don't quite do it like that. I do a lot more flying, so that's probably not going to happen. But like the guys in Arizona called up and said, hey, we'll be happy to pay your travel expenses. Big Green Egg takes care of me, you know, so there's no fee involved. So if they want to buy me a plane ticket, I'll go to their Egg Fest. And it's a great time when we go. I love going to them. It's amazing what happens. I mean, it's just a party. There's no... You look around at first and you think, well, okay, what am I missing here? But you're missing nothing. It's just a bunch of people that want to go and have a good time and sort of worship the egg. It's fun to see. it's a good time. I can't wait. The only one right now, I'm scheduled to go to the one in Arizona, and I'll try to go see Dale. It's not like anything else I've ever seen. I think the Big Green Egg just has this appeal that somehow the guy that walks in the store and says, "Well, I want that goofy looking green one," and takes it home with him that day. This is a unique kind of person, and we end up with a whole bunch of them on our team, and that's why I think these things work so well. It's really fun. You ought to try and get to one because it's a mighty good time.
So somebody that has been around the Big Green Egg, you use them to compete on, probably no other expert is as expert. Gee, I don't even know how to term it, but there's no other green egg expert that is on the same level as you are, Ray, because of the amount of experience that you have with these. What makes these cookers so popular, and why do you think they are so good, not only for the backyard person, but for the competitor as well?
Well, first of all, I got to give some props. There's some other guys out there doing plenty of cooking on the egg. I'm certainly one of them. But,
forget about them. Just you, Ray. Let's just talk about you.
Well, that you want me to be a nice guy, but that's why I come off like that, because I am going to be honest about it. Bobby there at Green Egg cooks on them all the time, and Chris up at Dizzy Pig, and you'd be surprised the guys in the shop that cook on them. But I do cook on them a lot. There's no doubt about it. I tend to think it's the versatility of it and the commitment that guys get. What happens is a guy buys an egg, he's got a gas grill, he flips some burgers and steaks around and maybe makes some ribs, and he thinks he's pretty good at it. So he gets this egg now and he brings it home. Well, now he decides, he's going to make a pizza. First of all, his steak and ribs and pork chops get better because he's got charcoal and he's got the ceramic and he's got all that going on. But now he decides to make a pizza, and then he goes on, and it's good. And then he goes and sees some other eggheads, and he makes a cake on his egg, and he bakes some kind of quiche or a tomato pie or something, and all the different things that we can do. And he learns how to grill directly but a little slower, and all the different things that the Green Egg can do. And this guy learns about it, and then he goes and buys himself like a thermopen. I heard that interview today. That's just a great product. So almost every egghead gets himself a thermopen. Well, when you get a thermopen, it makes you a better cook, because if you're cooking on your gas grill with a chicken breast and no thermopen, or you're cooking on your egg a chicken breast with a thermopen, it's not even going to be close. The one on the egg, for one, it's going to taste so good because of the egg and the charcoal, but you're going to stick that thermopen in it and you're going to get it off at the right time. So the guys become better cooks because they're so into it. And it's part of one of the secrets of it, I believe, that they just get more motivated and they try different things and they cook different things. And a year later, the guy's a way better outdoor cook than he was before he got his egg. And frankly, the egg gets all the credit for it.
Ray Lampe joining us. He is the spokesperson for the Big Green Egg, by the way, in case you couldn't tell. Big fan. And anybody that has these cookers certainly is kind of like that whole egghead culture, and that's why they have these egg fests and so on and so forth. All right, let's go ahead and pick another question here. This is from another one here from Clint Cantwell, Smoke and Die Barbecue. Any thoughts on not allowing the Wired barbecue guys to share the award ceremony live and spread the word? Obviously, this is directed towards the KCBS banquet.
I don't know that much about the details of that, but I will say this. We can't have it both ways, and it's part of the problem. We want it to be run like a business, but yet we want those guys are our friends. They should just be able to come and film the thing or stream it. I just don't think it's that simple. I think a lot of guys jump on the bandwagon. Of course, it's also an organization with 14,000 members. It's highly possible that 7,000 of them would like it to just be a good old boy thing, and those guys should be allowed. And the other 7,000 would like to see it be all business, and no, they shouldn't be allowed unless they have a business plan and all of this. And they're both right. So I don't know. It's all growing so fast, and this is why we need a strong board to make good decisions and communicate to us why they made a decision. This was another one that sort of trickled out, and Candy's trying to communicate, but I'm pretty sure she's got the thumb on her to not go talk. And every time I was in a meeting at that board, they just hated that we would go out on the internet and talk about stuff, and they would try to make rules so we couldn't go talk on the internet. So communicate to us. Tell us why. And I think it was a knee-jerk decision. I don't know. I think maybe you could have just let it go this one time. But then, of course, if you just let them do it this time and next year somebody else wants to do it and offers to pay $1,000, well, then Wired Barbecue says, well, we did it for free the first time, and it gets complicated. It's business, and it's not that simple. So I don't know. Having not been there and in on all of it, I don't know.
Well, I think two parts to that, Ray. I actually have an opinion on this portion, and I'm not a KCBS member. First of all, I see it from their perspective. Why would you want to have somebody there streaming live video of something that, in essence, is really only for members, whether they're not, whether those individual people that make up WiredBBQ.com are members or not? They're doing their own thing. This is their own, business or, whatever you want to call it, entity. And they did a great job on the American Royal. They did a great job covering the Jack Daniels, but this is something obviously a little bit different. This is kind of an end-of-the-year award ceremony. So as somebody who is, I guess, technically in the media as myself, I can see where they wouldn't want me or somebody with an actual video camera just getting every bit and piece of what is happening there. However, on the flip side of that, why wouldn't me, as a media outlet, be able to approach them and say, hey, could I have a room that is off the main banquet hall and get the team of the year and get a number of the other teams that finished high, or just get people in general that want to talk to me about barbecue in a separate area and help promote not only KCBS but the sport of barbecue?
Yeah, that would probably make more sense because is that media? I don't know. It is live streaming of your event. Is that really media? I don't know. I can tell you that, like, normally you would want a little more control over it if you were going to allow media in. You would tell them, you can use 10 minutes of this, shoot it, edit it, and you can use 10 minutes of it or something like that.
Right.
Just to have the camera wide open. It could end up being an embarrassing situation. There's going to be an open bar there, I assume.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, I could certainly understand why you may not want that. I think you need to justify it to the members a little better maybe than they did. But I can certainly understand why you might not want that. And frankly, Greg, this stuff is brand new. No one's ever asked to live stream the KCBS banquet before. It used to be a potluck, and I was there. Ed Royth handed me 2 ribs, and I had to bring my own dish at this school in the Civic Center in Blue Ridge. We used to have it, and then one year they had it at the Crown Center, and then they went back to the Blue Ridge because all the locals were complaining. To think that this is now all of a sudden somebody wants to live stream it, I don't know. God, it's so out of left field that I don't know. This is also new. What is the right way to handle it? I don't envy the decision either way. I don't envy the guys trying to make the decision. And you can't blame the Wired guys. They're, this is what they're doing. I'm sure they've spent some money on equipment to be able to do this, and in their mind it'd be a pretty cool thing. And I'm certainly there'd be a whole bunch of members that would enjoy it. But what guys kind of don't want to accept is that this is KCBS's property, like the scoring program. When guys are using it for their own use, you can't do that. It's someone's intellectual property. You can't do that. And as we get bigger, it is a business. And I don't know. It's a tough one. I hope they made the right decision. We won't know for some time, I guess.
No, I think absolutely, Ray. I see a number of your points. And like you said, this is a KCBS event. And if KCBS doesn't want to have them in there for whatever reason, that's certainly their prerogative. And whether you like it or not, you're just going to have to live with it. And, just like if I were to ask to have access, and certainly KCBS has not been very forthcoming with having people. I on any number of occasions, if you go back and listen to the archives of the show, I have tried to build a relationship with KCBS to have somebody on at least once a quarter, whether it be Carolyn Wells, whether it be whoever the current president is, whether it be some type of board of director, whoever the hell it is. It just never seems to materialize, and I have my own theories on that. But whatever. This is something that you have to understand. And as you said, this is a KCBS event, and whatever they are going to dictate is certainly up to their prerogative. And whether you disagree or agree with it, that's just the way it is, and you're going to have to accept it. And we move on from there. And Ray Lampe is our guest, Dr. Barbecue. Next question, Ray. Talking about, let me see here. We talked about the removal of garnish. Barbecue and builds camaraderie. We all know about that. Scotty Johnson is asking about motorhomes and cheating. Ray, do you think that? Look, a lot of the top teams have some type of motorhome. They have some type of undercover ability to do their prep, to do their cutting, to do their box building. Any reason why one would suspect that somebody isn't playing with a full deck of cards?
Well, I happen to think that if you put 100 people in any room, I don't care how much they like to cook and eat barbecue, there's going to be some liars and cheating bastards in there among that 100.
Name them right now. Name them all right now.
Well, I'm just going by the theory of odds that out of that 100, there's going to be some cheaters in there. So that's fine. It's how it is. I mean, you hear these stories about bass fishermen, putting weights in the fish and stuff. There's no way to believe that this doesn't happen in barbecue. I think there's guys doing it. And of course, it's if you don't have to bring your meat outside of your motorhome ever, and the guy only looks in the cooler, you show him during the meat inspection, well, you've created a breeding ground for it. I mean, I'm certainly not saying every guy with a motorhome or a trailer is cheating. I've had a trailer for many years. I don't cheat. And of course, you could cheat in an easy up with the walls up as well, or when nobody's looking at night out in the naked night. But I think that maybe somewhere along the way, it's sort of a recurring theme. Somewhere along the way, we might have wanted to tweak the rules to say, listen, guys, you can't just spend your whole weekend in your motorhome with your food. We need you to somehow have this food being prepared out where folks might be able to see it. It's too late now, frankly. I'm not saying you can't bring your motorhome. Your motorhome is your living quarters, but you need to prep your food out in the open where folks could see it. It's going to be pretty hard to turn that back around. Now, we all used to do it. Heck, I didn't have a motorhome or a trailer for a long time, and guys still don't. I think that somewhere along the way we might have wanted to somehow tweak that so that they couldn't just spend their whole weekend in their motorhome or in their trailer, where the public or the fellow competitors or the officials don't see a thing that you do. Maybe I'm just a suspicious guy, but it makes me suspicious that something could be happening. I'm not accusing all guys with motorhomes. I'm saying it creates an opportunity. If you want to cheat, it's a whole lot easier to cheat in your motorhome than it is out on the ground. Now, and I think that we may someday have to revert back to that, to where guys do have to somehow cook out in the open, not only for the public, but also to clear that up, to clear up any suspicion. How can you have a rule, but you can't possibly enforce it because the guy gets to do everything in his motorhome and you're not allowed to go in there and look at him? It creates a real big potential to cheat. I don't know. It's going to be tough to change it now. I wish 10 years ago somebody would have changed it. I have a good story I like to tell. I was in Delaware in like 1993 or something. I just started selling the rub, and there was a big cook-off in Delaware. A guy named Wayne Jackson, he's dead now, but he had like a $10,000 contest in the middle of Delaware. So I drove there and with my buddy, and we're going to go win this 10 grand. And we got there, and there was a whole bunch of caterers and vendors and stuff there that were cooking for their first KCBS contest. It was the early 90s or mid-90s, and there was nothing around there. They'd never heard of it. And they all show up with these old hickories and Southern Prides and no way to cook on them without gas. So we all started explaining to them that this is not how they couldn't do it. John Ross, I think, was the rep, and we kind of helped walk some of them through it. And most of them did try to run charcoal and wood. Some of them just ran their gas overnight anyway. They weren't going to do very well, and everybody kind of looked the other way. It was a really unique situation. I always remember I went back home, and I was starting to get involved, and I called Carolyn, and I told her the story about this, and I said, we need to, accept the fact that these kind of guys are going to keep coming to our contests. This is not going to end. It's not just isolated to Delaware. We need to maybe make some rules or somehow address this situation. And frankly, it still really hasn't been addressed. They occasionally catch somebody and put them out for a year or something for cooking with gas, but the whole vending thing is mixed up. For a while there was a rule that you had to unhook the gas from your cooker, but then guys got mad because they were either vending or they had a burner that they cooked their cleanup water on, and somehow it had to be hooked up or some nonsense like that. And so they changed that rule back to where you don't have to unhook the gas. And it's just an example of stuff that we could have cut it off at the pass. And I'm not saying that everybody with a gas cooker is cheating by any stretch. I don't know that they are, but we could have cut it off at the pass a long time ago and just said, hey, if you can't unhook your gas, you can't be in this contest. But we didn't want to step on anybody's toes, and so we reverted that rule, and it's just kind of an example of stuff that maybe we could have fixed it along the way, and that's how I feel about the motorhome thing and the trailer thing. It's kind of the horses out of the barn now, though.
Ray Lampe joining us here on the show, breaking it all down for us, talking about the motorhome potential incident with cheating. We move to the next question, which is from Terry Grimes. I have considerable ideas of this particular question, but we'll ask you, Ray, first because you're the expert. To remove the membrane or leave it on, obviously I think we're talking about ribs. So debatable. I don't think it's debatable at all. I am all for removing it myself. So many like to keep it on. I know nobody likes to keep it on. Maybe they need to improve their smoking technique. Signed, Anti-Membrane Committee. Of course, that's Terry Grimes. Ray, you a fan of taking the membrane off the ribs or what?
Yes, 100% of the time. There's no excuse for that. When I'm teaching a rib cooking class, this is how I'll tell people that anybody that tells you need to leave the membrane on there because it keeps it moist and keeps the smoke in and that is bullshitting you. The only reason you would leave the membrane on is because it's a labor issue. When you're cooking 1,000 slabs of ribs and feeding people, then you don't want to peel the membrane off, and I completely understand that. But so they score the membrane, and most of those rib burner guys, it's kind of charred up, and it's okay. It sort of solves the problem. But at home, if you're cooking ribs for your friends and family, you need to be peeling the membrane off, period.
It's like a flavor condom.
Well, that's true.
I want
but it's kind of cellophane-y, too.
Yeah.
It's or you got to cook it down to all soft and mushy like chicken skin, like we cook the chicken skin now, and you got to do one or the other with it. But once you learn how to peel it off, it's pretty easy.
All right, looks like we have one last question here. Your take, Ray, on Harry Sue of Slap Your Daddy Barbecue. Let me tell you something. This guy has really kind of taken the competition world by storm, and regardless of the success, in my opinion, that he had on Barbecue Pitmasters Season 1, he obviously wasn't in Season 2. But there's something going on in his camp. He does some competition cooking classes, like 101 competition-type cooking classes. But he's a California guy. He's out there busting ass, putting on a lot of miles on his particular minivans. He's cooking on Weber Smoky Mountains with Stoker automatic temperature control devices, and I like Gurus, by the way. My thought is this, Ray.
Me too.
If he continues to do the amount of competitions that he did this year with his success, I foresee no reason why Harry Sue might not be atop the leaderboard of Team of the Year come this time next year.
I don't know Harry personally, and but what the heck? If he can win those contests, I don't care where they are. There's no rule about you got to get out of California to win. If he can, there's enough contests in California, he can beat everybody up. Good for him. I mean, for many years, the Team of the Year always came out of the Kansas City area. There was never a question because they just had more cooks there and more contests. It's changed now, but I don't see a problem with it. I think it, and hey, who's to say there won't be some new gunslinger come out next year and put Harry in his place? I think it's all good. That kind of stuff to me, as long as he's not cheating, and there's no indication that he's cheating. Good for him. I don't know Harry, but I don't have a problem with him.
Ray Lampe is the doctor of barbecue. He is the corporate chef for Big Green Egg. What else do you have going on, Ray, right now?
What else? Tailgate Warriors going to be on the new episode of Tailgate Warriors the week before the Super Bowl. I am going to Pittsburgh to be at the Giant Eagle. What do they call it? They got a new giant, great big store. I can't remember the name of it now, but they got a new great big store there in Pittsburgh, and I will be there the Friday before the Super Bowl, doing a demonstration and just kind of hanging around and signing some books. And I'll be at some other store in Pittsburgh. I don't know which ones yet, but if you look on the website, the Giant Eagle website, you'll find that leading up to the Super Bowl. So I'll be there, and I'm hoping to be in Dallas watching the Bears win the Super Bowl.
Ray, one thing I can tell you that from somebody that lives in Cleveland, Pittsburgh sucks. It's the worst city ever, and we hate them, but that's just football related, nevertheless.
Well, I like them this time. But
of course. Now, as you look into NFL football, we have the playoffs coming up. Ray, any Super Bowl predictions, any playoff predictions that you want to give the Centralites in order for them to get down on? Because the majority of my listeners are degenerate gamblers.
Yes, the Bears are much better than people think. They're underestimated. They're probably going to be getting points, and they're going to be winning. I think the Bears are going to be the bet throughout the playoffs, and I think they're going to win the Super Bowl.
Do you think that Philly has any chance of beating the Green Bay Packers this coming weekend?
Well, I sure hope so. I mean, I hate the Packers about as much as you hate Pittsburgh, so I'm always I'm no Mike Vick fan, but I'm always rooting against the Packers. The Packers, boy, I don't know. They look really good sometimes, and they look horrible sometimes. They sure didn't look that good against the Bears the other day. I mean, they squeaked that one out, but the Bears didn't really have much to play for. I don't think the Packers are that good. I think Philly probably will beat them. I hope so.
Who do you see in the Super Bowl this year?
Bears in New England.
Bears in New England, really?
And it'll be similar to in '86. It'll probably be like 46-10.
So it'll be a defensive struggle, no doubt about it. Ray Lampe joining us here. That's right. Of course. Well, I mean, it would never be for New England. It's always the Bears for you, right?
Yes.
That's right. Native Chicago and Ray Lampe joining us here on the show. I'm looking at the clock right now. I mean, we got to be well into like an hour and 40 minutes. Unbelievable. One of the longest After Dark interviews we've ever had. And probably to your surprise, Ray, we have kept every single listener that we've had on since 10:05 Eastern Standard Time. We've actually gained and lost some here and there. But on the average, we're still very high right now for this hour. Well, what can I say?
That makes you feel better because I figured they all nodded off.
No, not at all. I mean, certainly there's probably some people that have gotten off just because they have to go to work tomorrow, unlike myself, and they'll catch the rest of the interview and podcast. But certainly been one of the best interviews ever, and I always appreciate you coming on the show, Ray, and you have really broke it down tonight. And I think, again, one of the things that not only myself, but a lot of the other listeners appreciate about you when you come on is the fact that you're just going to speak your mind. And, whatever happens, happens. And certainly that makes for the best radio. So, Ray, whatever you have going on, whenever you want to come back on, you always drop me a line. I'll get you back up, and I certainly appreciate the talk tonight.
Well, I know where all the bodies are buried, man. And I am who I am. And believe it or not, this is actually the toned-down, edited version of me. But thank you for the nice words.
All right, Ray. Take care, buddy.
Take care, Greg.
There he is, Ray Lampe. Epic After Hours interview. Double crowd noise on that. I mean, there's still like 65 live connections going on. It's like the wave going on right now. I can't believe it. It is 11:42. Typically, I'm well in bed by now. I might even have a victory martini for such a great show. Oh, my Lord. I mean, to sit here and say that I could possibly react to what Ray said tonight is pretty much going to be a lie. It would probably take me all of next show to get through exactly what he said, but I might try to at least decipher a little bit about what happened as I'm trying to revamp the Open. Quick hit on what's happening and then kind of briefly recap what happened the week before. All right, guys, gals, those of you that have hung through, extreme thank you. Hopefully you enjoyed it tonight with Ray. Also, maybe you enjoyed the first hour as well. Little Barbecue Central Radio Network roundtable with JM from the Celebrity Grill Show. Also, Brian Mayer from Hot Sauce Weekly. And then we had Big Jim Stansel from Bare Knuckle Barbecue talking about his KCBS Board of Directors run for this year. And then, of course, Ray Lampe with an Epic After Dark segment. This will all be up on podcast very early tomorrow morning, if not tonight. Tell all your friends and neighbors about the show, ladies and gentlemen. You can find it at thebbqcentralshow.com. If you want to talk about barbecue and grilling in general in between shows, there is always the forum, thebbqcentral.com. And until next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, this is your program host and proud U.S. American, and especially to you vocal people. Good night now.